as well as practitioners too. So there's always help here at the center. And now I think we're on Periscope, is it?
Periscope?
Yeah.
Live.
Live. So if you're not here, you get to watch it later on in the day. Right?
Or now.
Or now.
It's live.
We're live here with Reverend Joe Brocklehurst.
I hear it's Music Fest in Courtney.
Yeah.
Probably where a lot of our friends are today. So the topic this week is outlined by Dr. David Bruner, a friend of mine from San Jose, California, from the center down there. If you ever get a chance to meet him or go there, he's quite the character. Highly recommend it. And it's also based on a book, Forgiveness, the Greatest Healer of All, by Gerald Jampolsky. Anybody know him? Why is this not coming up? There we go. Yeah, great author. Highly recommend the book. And he says forgiveness is not simply an event. It's not something that we just do. It's a paradigm, which means it's a way of being. So I come here to celebrations often, and to the center, to master my own inner life, and to master my way of being. And so this month, what we're doing is we're looking deeply into loving kindness and forgiveness. And today, we're knowing that ourselves are the biggest victims to our own condemnation, I would have to say, that we are looking at judgments and how they affect not other people necessarily, but ourselves. The topic being that of your biggest victim, you. Anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Anybody get out the battering ram and spend some hours with that? Yeah, not cool. What is that about, this human race that we do? Holy cow, right? And so we get this opportunity to look at our own inner pain and what that is all about. And it's not an easy job. It's not an easy road. Those messages that we took on as little ones growing up in families that may have not been normal, what's normal, or highly functional, or unconditionally loving, we took on beliefs about the world and who we thought we are, that aren't based in truth at all. If only we could have been raised in families that were based in the principles of this teaching, is what I think, or any spiritual teaching that's aligned with the truth that there is just one life. That life is this life. That life is spirit, perfect, whole, and complete, and that life is my life as much as it is your life. And so the invitation is to free ourselves. Free ourselves of that pain and suffering, and live in integrity and harmony with what we're thinking, saying, and doing. And not taking our anger to an angry situation to make more anger. I was talking to the kids a little bit about forgiveness. It's always fun when I bring words like that to the children's program and throw it out there. And do you guys know what forgiveness means? And they kind of look at me and go, what? Like, it's something that I think as a kid. So then, why would they know about forgiveness? But then I said, well, are you ever asked to say sorry to somebody for something that you did? And they go, oh yeah, that they get. And has anybody ever had to say sorry to you? Oh yeah, they get that for sure, right? So that's kind of like our baby steps into forgiveness, isn't it? And that understanding of what it's like to actually do something to somebody else or have something done to you that may not be loving or kind or compassionate. So Ernest Holmes says, what untold grief of heart might be revealed by words of cheer and forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't condoning somebody else's behavior. When we don't forgive, what we're doing is we're actually holding on toxins of anger. Ugh. And that, it is proven that these toxins of anger affect every organ of our body. It diminishes our health and well-being. And so the decision not to forgive is a decision to suffer. When we do forgive, we find a sense of peace and happiness. We can change the pain we carry within. Forgiveness is the release of a painful past, but not for the faint of heart. Forgiveness is not an easy journey. Revealing the pain within is terrifying. It's the thought and feeling in my experience of reliving that, and isn't it easier just to stuff it away maybe where I don't have to look at it quite so clearly? Because the pain from the past, I don't want to have to dance with that again here in the now. I'd rather just pretend it didn't exist. But this is what I know, is that when we don't allow ourselves to greet that pain and deal it and look it in the face for what it is, when we don't say hello to those shaming behaviors we do to ourselves or even others, but specifically ourselves today, those blaming, those cursing or cussing or demoralizing things we do to ourselves, when we refuse to have a look at what that's really about for ourselves, all it does is it comes out sideways. It's what happens. It's like we can stuff it down all we want, but it comes out as some contorted either physical ailment or emotional behavior that isn't quite right. I was sharing a story with the kids about, they wanted to know examples. So cute. Lila's like, tell me more stories about your childhood. I wasn't always cute, you know. So I told them a story about this little boy in my class. We were in grade 5, and I distinctly remember being in the gymnasium, and we were practicing something for a celebration, and we were up on, remember those wooden benches that they had? We were sitting up on those wooden benches, and he was in the row. He was actually over there. I remember distinctly. His name is Russell. And he was teasing me and making fun of me, and maybe he said something about my mother, and it was mean boy stuff. Boys. And so, mind you, girls can be mean too. But anyway, it was mean boy stuff. And he was just being a brat and a bully, and he was kind of a bully anyway. That was his behavior. And I turned to him and I go, oh yeah, well your mother, she's a vegetable. And then I went, oh, because I remembered that just recently his mother had been in a car accident and was now paraplegic in a wheelchair. And so at the age of 10, I quite quickly realized what had come out of my mouth was so hurtful. And by the look on his face, and he shut up, but it wasn't something that a way that I wanted him to stop. I was hurting him back. And I realized that I didn't want to be a part of that at that young age. You know, it was pretty interesting that sits in my mind so clearly. Although the years of bullying did continue for a couple of years on my part until I repented and became a minister. That's what I said. But I think in my heart of hearts, though, what I told the children when I told the story was, they said, well, he was being mean, you know, and he deserved it, and it didn't matter what his mother was feeling or like or what had happened. And I said, yeah, but maybe he was behaving that way because he was hurting inside. Maybe there was his home life, if you can imagine what it must have been like when his mother was well. And now all of a sudden his father had to deal with the kids and all the chores that she looked after. And maybe his home life was so tumultuous that he was acting out and projecting his pain and his suffering. And maybe if I had compassion for that, it would have been helpful instead of hurting him back. And so really, if we can think about that as adults, and we look at people who can be hurtful or mean, or maybe doing acts of violence even, and we can look at ourselves and what we do to ourselves, if maybe we can bring compassion to that and go, wow, there's pain there. You know? They're acting out what they're feeling inside. And that feeling isn't just random, it comes from something that's happened to them or to ourselves. And so we bring compassion, loving kindness to it. This is that inner healing that we get to do, and health is being in inner peace. And peace is letting go of fear. And letting go of fear is healing our mind and heart. And when we choose inner peace, it's a decision to control our response to a situation. We can't change the situation, stuff happens. But we can look the situation head on, and it's only us that determines how long we're going to stay angry or hold on to our perception of what's happened. For most people, forgiving others is a distant way of forgiving ourselves. You know, we can start with others, and it's a way of peace of mind And this is the key to happiness, really, that we're here to co-create love and to share the light. So I know one of my affirmations today is, today I'm not going to have any thoughts or actions that are hurtful to others or myself. I don't know about you, I'm pretty good with others, not so good at myself. You know, one of the things you can read Brene Brown's work, she talks about shame. And one of the things I know about shame is that people who have the most inner shame are usually high achievers. And so if you're a high achiever, it's an opportunity to say why. And really, high achievement is about covering up the fact that we feel that that have a deep sense of self-loathing, that we feel we're not good enough, we don't match up, we are not doing it right, we need to do it better, there's another way, and I'm messing up. That's what shame comes from, is this self-loathing. And it's an indication of the abuse that we do to ourselves. And it's a hard pattern to stop, you know? I know when I'm having struggles in my own life, often what I do, you know, or if I'm having struggles with another person, because of this teaching, it ended me up in a marriage, an unhappy marriage for 12 years. And because of this teaching, there's this Pollyanna aspect of this teaching that says, you know, change your thinking, change your life. And to be responsible for that which you're creating, right? So grasping that concept and putting it in my bag of tools and carrying that along with me, I lived in a marriage that was really unhappy because every time something unhappy happened, I turned it on myself and said, well, I must be messing up. And I decided that I needed to change who I am in order to create a situation that's more loving and kind. And I never stopped to ask myself why I was hurting inside. I never stopped to forgive myself for the pain and suffering that I was creating for myself. And I stayed in that situation until it became unbearable. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to let myself free. And so if there's any lesson I can learn from that, the lesson being that this teaching's two-sided. Yes, I see through the veil of my own consciousness and I create the reality in which I experience by the veil of the consciousness at which I look through. And yes, I don't need to beat myself up for that. I can forgive myself. I don't need to say, look, Jill, what you created, what a mess. Are you ever stupid? What are you thinking? That tends to be what goes through my head. And better buck up. Jeez, and you're supposed to be a minister? What a poor example are you of this teaching? Batter, batter, batter. I don't know. You guys probably don't quite do it as much as I do. Maybe you do. And so that's the opportunity, is to say, forgive myself. I'm human. It's okay. You know? I'm perfect, whole, and complete. Even when I feel like I don't measure up, that's not true. Because there's only one thing happening. It's spirit and all its perfection everywhere. And if I can practice it, seeing it in every other person, I can turn that around and practice and see it in myself. I am perfect, whole, and complete, no matter what is going on in my life. And I deserve joy, love, peace, harmony. Ernest Holmes says, we should do well to remember this lesson. How often we condemn when we should forgive. How often we censor when we might praise. So Gerald Jambolski says, to be happy, all I have to do is give up my judgments. Poof, end of lesson, onward we go. Right? Easy. And I know we can do it because as parents, right, we can make a distinction between discernment and condemnation. When our children have acted poorly, we don't condemn them, right? We tell them it's their behavior that's inappropriate. You know, they can change their behavior. They can't change who they are, but they can change their behavior. And I remember being teased by that. I had learned from, I'd probably been going to counselors trying to find my way. Remember, high achiever, lots of shame. So I went to counselors to find my way through parenting, to try and be that perfect parent. And I remember them saying to me, you know, talk about the behavior, not the personality. And so I coined or use the phrase, that behavior is unacceptable. And I remember a friend of ours, her son used to mock me, that behavior is unacceptable, right? Because I said it all the time to my kids. That behavior is unacceptable. Take that behavior over there. It's not appropriate to have that behavior in this house right now. You can go over there with that behavior, but not here. Right? We can do that. And we can do that in our own lives. You know, it's not something that we have to do is put up with other people's behavior to see their light. I can see someone's light and their joy and their love, but I don't have to marry their behavior. I don't have to stay in an unhappy relationship for 12 years and make him right and me wrong. Right? I'm unhappy. I can honor myself and find happiness. So I can love unconditionally and still have conditions in my relationships. It's important. We deal a lot with this in class and when I'm working with people one-on-one about that borderline between loving acceptance and boundaries. You know, and boundaries are a really loving thing to create in our lives. There's certain things that I remember when I was dating anytime, I used to say right up front, well, if you watch TV, we're not going anywhere forward. I mean, forget smoking, because that's not even a question. But television was next. Like, not into it. I don't watch TV. So if you're a TV watcher, like, let's not even bother having another date. Right? It's a boundary of mine. We don't do TV. I don't do TV. Now, if I go into somebody else's home and they have TV, I do my prayer work, and I lovingly accept their home. I'm in their home, their boundaries, their rules, right? And I can choose to leave if I get annoyed by the TV. I don't have to stay there. I get to respect myself and create an environment that works for me. Blake and I have in our home a rule. We were reading Thich Nhat Hanh's Loving Jesus, Loving Christ? Living, thank you. Living Jesus, Living Christ. Living Buddha, Living Christ. There we go. And in it, Thich Nhat Hanh was talking about alcohol specifically, and my partner has practiced not having alcohol around for a lot of his life. And so we were talking about being mindful of what we do physically in our physical world. And we teach nutrition, and we teach mindful living and mindful speech. And so we decided to create a home that also not only honored the food that we put into our bodies, but honored that we don't put alcohol or drugs or smoke in our bodies. And so we created a sanctuary. It's our home. And our sanctuary is an alcohol, drug-free, smoke-free home. It's just the rule that we have, and it's our boundary. And it's so interesting watching my kids around that, right? Because I don't care that they drink. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I create a safe haven for ourselves, and I also aspire to a conscious living in our home that I would choose for everybody to follow if they chose, because I have a belief and a boundary around that. But my kids are like, oh, don't tell mom you're drinking. And I'm like, I don't care, you know? Go out and have a drink. I don't think it's bad. It's not bad. And so it's just a boundary. TV, is TV bad? No, it's not bad. It's just my own boundary. I just don't like it. I don't like what it does to other people, and I don't like what it does to me. It's an easy, same with television. I don't know about you, but when I'm watching television and somebody tries to have a conversation with me, anybody else like this? And it's like, shh. Like, I just don't want to be that person, so I had to eliminate the problem. And so we create our own rules, and we decide whether we want to be part of conversations that work for us. I know that one of my other rules is I will not participate in negative, judgmental conversations of separation. And if somebody starts in one, I'm like, shh, shh. Around here, I'm like, shh, not listening, la 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 la. That's what I do around here. But if I'm out there and somebody talks and gets into that, I just kind of smile and say, oh, okay, catch you later, and I step away, right? I don't have to be a part of that kind of conversation. What sandbox do you want to play in? So the roots of unhappiness, it's part of us that believes that our happiness lies in external things, our attachments to how we believe things ought to be. And it's the ego in our minds that says it's impossible to experience happiness for long. You know, a lot of our judgments come from, this is how it ought to be out there. You ought to behave that way, and this ought to be happening in my life. And we think that all this stuff out there needs to be a specific way, and when it isn't, we turn judgment on it. And we also, I think it's a tendency to believe that we can have this much happiness, not this much, but maybe this much. And then all of a sudden we experience that much, and then it goes a little bit beyond, and we're like, oh, when's that ball going to drop? And so we get to move beyond that. And when things fall apart and something is sure to go wrong, and someone will surely intrude our happiness, we can be on the lookout and say, no, this is not a reality that I choose to participate in anymore. That I know that happiness is unlimited, and that begins with me, begins with accepting myself. One unfortunate byproduct of this is that we become a victim. If we don't take a stand for happiness, then we're often standing in the shoes of victimhood, and we're accepting that life is happening to us, and that I'm a victim to that. Ernest Holmes says, remembering that the Spirit holds no evil towards anyone, that God is love, we should emulate this divine lesson and forgive all, that our hearts may be free from the burden of our own condemnation. So what is there to forgive? Where do we start? Parents, step-parents, family members, relatives, spouses, ex-spouses, past love relationships, authority figures, our physical body, our own past or present thoughts, feelings, behaviors, acts of God, fate, luck, higher power, the stars, or life itself, accidents, offenses, misdeeds of strangers, the list goes on. Forgiveness is a way of living. Our job is to look beyond the behavior and the costume that others wear and see the light that they are and identify that with it, you know? I see your light. My light sees your light. That's what namaste means. The God in me honors the God in you. The God in me, the light in me, sees the light in you. Your light is all I see. It is the reflection of the light in me. It's one of the phrases that Gerald Jambalski uses when he's having trouble with an individual. Your light is all that I see. It is a reflection of the light in me. So love and happiness are inseparable. We can choose to have peace of mind as our only goal. Knowing to be happy, all I have to do is give up my judgments. Quoting again Gerald Jambalski, inner peace can be reached only when we practice forgiveness. Forgiveness is letting go of the past, and therefore the means for correcting our misperceptions, and peace of mind comes from not wanting to change others. So I invite you to join me in prayer, if you will. There is just one life. It is perfect, whole, and complete, everywhere present. Nothing else, just this life. It is the light, it is the joy, it is the loving kindness. And I see it in every person's eyes. My light resonates with their light. And it is my job to continue to see the light within myself, knowing that no matter what happens throughout the day, that I am doing the best that I can. That I use the tools that I know to expand and be the light and love that I choose to be in this world. And I do it brilliantly. Every day, I get better and better at remembering that I am perfect, whole, and complete right now. And so I forgive myself of anything that I might judge within myself as shortcomings, for that is not a truth. I may be short, but there is nothing short about who I am. I am light. I am love. And I hold fast to this truth, knowing that it continues to expand outwardly from me, revealing the light and love in others. And so this brilliant ball of kindness expands and grows, creating a whirlwind of activity within my own reality that encompasses not only this spiritual center, but Campbell River and beyond. I believe in a world that works for everyone. And I know that that world is happening right now, that transformation is afoot, and I am part of it by beginning with me. And so I give great thanks, knowing that I am part and whole and perfect of this complete, brilliant reality. I give great thanks knowing that this one is speaking by means of me and making movement in a law that responds to my words. And so I have confidence that my words have been spoken and that the law is responding. And so I let go and allow what I have spoken to reveal itself. I look for it and I go, my prayer is working, there it is. And so confidently I surrender. I let go. And I let this day be the brilliant Sunday that it is. And together we say, and so it is. Namaste, my friends.